Hello, ladies and gentlemen, the Copa America videos are back. Today, I'm going to be giving you my quarterfinal predictions. Now, I'm sorry I wasn't able to do match day predictions for the Copa America because I was mostly focused on the Euros. But now with the matches more spaced out, obviously, since there are less teams in the tournament and we are in the knockouts now for both, I will bring back the Copa America predictions. I know a lot of you have also asked me to do a reaction video for my Copa America predictions, just like how I did for the Euros. But again, unfortunately, it's just too much on my plate to get that out for you right away. So this video will be mostly focused on the predictions, but I will be doing a very quick recap on what I previously said and what happened in the groups. So in Group A, I went for Argentina, obviously getting first place, along with the other South American teams getting second and third, with the CONCACAF team Canada at fourth. Canada actually had a very impressive display. They finished second. Chile and Peru were absolutely dreadful. Neither of them could score a single goal in the group stage. 1 out of 4 so far. Brilliant. In Group B, probably the toughest group to predict, I went for Ecuador first, Mexico second, Venezuela third, Jamaica fourth. But I was very torn on what to put for Mexico versus Venezuela. Either way, it wouldn't have mattered as Venezuela topped the group, 3 for 3 wins. Ecuador just took second place, sharing points with Mexico, who took third, and Jamaica fourth. The only thing I got right here was Jamaica finishing fourth place. In Group C, what looked to be a very easy group to predict, we actually saw somewhat of an upset. Many people like me went for Uruguay first, USA second, Panama third, and Bolivia fourth. And Panama got a massive win against the United States, putting them at second place instead. USA falls short to third. They're knocked out of the competition. What is the Federation doing? I've been saying it for years. Get rid of this guy. Sure, Wales was at fault for that red card, but Panama absolutely outplayed the US. And then for Group D, I went for Brazil first, Colombia second, Paraguay third, Costa Rica fourth. In my earliest predictions, I said Colombia would top the group, but I started to have faith in Brazil to maybe do some magic here. Should have stuck with my initial thoughts. I got 0 out of 4 correct in this group. Costa Rica really surprised me in this. Yes, they didn't qualify for the knockouts, but finishing the group with 4 points when everyone thought they were down and out, especially with Keylor Navas retiring internationally, you got to give this side some props for putting off some good fights, especially with that draw against Brazil at the beginning. So although a lot of my standings were completely off, I got 5 out of 8 correct in terms of which teams would advance to the knockouts. And that leaves us with this bracket here. A lot of great matchups for the quarterfinals. In my eyes, we have 2 matches that look very easy to predict, and then 2 that are definitely more 50-50. So of course, let me know your predictions as always in the comments below. Let's try to hit 3,000 likes on this video, and let's get into it. So one of the more predictable matchups on paper, Argentina versus Ecuador. Obviously, this is football, anything's possible, but Argentina are without a doubt the heavy favorites in this match. Like I already mentioned, Argentina unsurprisingly topped their group, and although they did the job in every single match getting 3 for 3 wins, they were wasteful in the attack a few times. For example, against Canada, Messi missed some absolute sitters, but he obviously redeemed himself getting a few assists. And a player who's had an absolute contrast to his World Cup performances is Lautaro Martinez. He scored in every match so far for Argentina in the Copa America, 4 goals. Messi is still a key player for this team, but he is not that guy that they can rely on to carry anymore like they used to, but that's no problem for this side, as we've just seen some great attackers are still stepping up. Ecuador obviously scraped through from the group stage, but I gotta say they were quite disappointing so far. I was expecting them to do a lot better in this group. Many people were actually. They lost at the beginning to Venezuela, but picked themselves back up, only being able to beat Jamaica and then having a 0-0 draw against Mexico. Obviously, against Venezuela, Enter Valencia's red card haunted them, and they scored quite a lot of goals against Jamaica, but overall, they need to be more clinical. Head-to-head between these two sides is looking doubtful for Ecuador. They've only beaten Argentina 5 times in their history, drawn 11 times, and Argentina have defeated them 24 times. Not to mention, they just played a friendly back in June, which finished 1-0. Obviously, we shouldn't trust a score like that after what just happened in the Euros between Turkey and Austria. Again, it's football, anything's possible, but Argentina should be able to defeat Ecuador. I'm going to say they're able to win 2-0. Argentina look to be the favorites to make it all the way to the final as well, and they might be in for a rude awakening once they make it to the final because some of the other teams on the other side of the bracket, but I still think they should be able to defeat Ecuador and potentially whoever they play next between Canada or Venezuela. Now, big props to both of these sides as many people are not expecting them to be at this stage of the competition. Canada definitely impressed. Them and Panama are the only CONCACAF teams to advance to the knockouts. Sure, they only scored 1 goal so far against Peru and had the same amount of points as Mexico, who fell short to third. But with the expectations of Canada, and you gotta say the group they were drawn in, I think this is definitely a positive they can take out of this. But they definitely should not underestimate this South American underdog, Venezuela. as they've been flawless so far, topping their group with 3-for-3 wins. Massive statement against Ecuador at the beginning, defeating them 2-1, narrowly beating Mexico, and then cruising through against Jamaica. They have broken history, as this is the first time ever for this country to get 3 wins in Copa America. Even when they finished 4th in 2011, it was 2 wins and 3 draws. Massive respect to all these players, but big shout out to their veteran Rondon, a legend that looked to be winding down in his career, but he has gotten a direct goal contribution every single one of Venezuela's victories so far. Although many people were not expecting them to finish first in their group, I gotta say I'm not necessarily surprised that they made it to the knockouts. They have been on an incredible rise already in the World Cup qualifiers. A side that has never qualified for the World Cup in their history really could be on track to play in America in 2026. I think both sides will be happy with their first knockout opponent, honestly. Venezuela probably the favorites right now based on how they've been playing, much more convincing. Like I said, Canada's only been able to score 1 goal, but obviously they've proven that they can go toe-to-toe with other South American sides right now. Under Jesse Marsch, they're obviously playing a lot more cautious football. They also didn't have a bad display against Argentina, really. Sure, losing at the end, and Argentina probably could have scored more goals, but they definitely had some notable moments. It's obviously hard to compare this factor, but maybe we are overhyping Venezuela, just like we did with Austria in the Euros, and then they immediately got knocked out in the knockouts. We could see the same here, but I am going to go for Venezuela to make it to the semifinals to face Argentina. I think it's going to be a tight match as well. I'm going for 1-0. Obviously, hard to sleep on Canada when they got big names like Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies. Venezuela have already been able to handle 2 CONCACAF sides. I think they can just narrowly beat Canada. We'll see though. And if Canada do prove me wrong, massive congratulations, seriously. Your debut in the Copa America and making it all the way to the semifinals, that's truly something. Best of luck to both teams. Moving on to the other side of the bracket now, starting off with Colombia versus Panama. Like I mentioned, Panama were able to defeat the United States and advance over them to this round after many anticipated the USA to be the ones to do so. This time, the United States were not even able to do the bare minimum like they usually do, and they fell short to this underdog. And I knew Panama were not a side to mess with. They have been on the rise themselves and have some ballers here. And big up to Panama. They've been gaining momentum throughout the tournament, scoring 1 more goal in every single one of their matches, even being able to score 1 against Uruguay, something the other nations failed to do. One of their best players, Carrasquilla, will be making a return as he got a red card against the United States. He could be crucial to this match against Colombia, but in my opinion, Colombia should be deemed as one of the favorites in this competition. This side went into the tournament on a massive unbeaten streak, and it is not ended, even while having to face Brazil once again. Sometimes they only just do the job on the scoreline, for example, only having 1 goal over Paraguay, but then they do have those moments of convincing displays, defeating Costa Rica 3-0 in the next match. There's too many players on this side that have been in form, and although Panama have been impressing, Colombia should be the favorites to advance. Panama might not make it easy, but I think Colombia has what it takes to defeat them 3-1. It would be something to see out of all teams, Panama to be the ones to end Colombia's unbeaten streak, but I think Colombia have what it takes, truly. And who will Colombia potentially play next? Uruguay or Brazil? Many talks about how underwhelming Brazil have been lately. They had some moments of flaring up at this Copa America. It started off slow against Costa Rica, finishing 0-0. Then they bounced back to defeat Paraguay 4-1, and then a 1-1 draw to Colombia. Prior to that, Brazil had many dreadful performances in the World Cup qualifiers. They are not in a good stance right now in the overall table. Obviously, they've cycled through managers since and have had some interesting friendlies before the tournament, but there's no denying that this is not the strongest and most convincing Brazil side we have seen in a very long time. Meanwhile, Uruguay, sure, you can argue were in an easier group, but they had so many convincing displays recently. 3-1 to Panama, 5-0 to Bolivia, and then their most narrow result, 1-0 to the United States. Say what you want about their group, they still scored the most goals out of any of the Copa America sides so far. Bielsa knows perfectly how to control this team, and the last time these sides faced in the World Cup qualifiers, like I mentioned, Brazil had been in bad form. Uruguay were able to defeat them 2-0. Of course, Brazil possess still some of the best players. They always will. Vinicius Jr. could be a difference maker in a match like this, but Uruguay are just looking too dangerous right now. And in my initial prediction video, my earliest one, I did say that these sides would face one another, where Uruguay would advance. And although Brazil have been a bit better since I filmed that video, I still think Uruguay have what it takes to be the ones victorious here. I'm going to say they're able to win against Brazil 2-1. Of course, it always seems crazy to write off Brazil, one of the greatest nations in football history, the side with the most World Cups. But right now, I still think they're picking themselves back up to redeem that status, and Uruguay are flying high. So if Uruguay continue to stay grounded and not underestimate their opponents, I think they have what it takes to defeat Brazil. Maybe they'll be caught off guard as their group prior was a lot easier, but regardless, I am favoring Uruguay to advance to the semifinals. They've just been on a better track record so far as well. Look at the World Cup qualifier standings. They are at second place, just under Argentina. Again, those matches were a while ago and Brazil have cycled through managers, but what Uruguay are doing under Bielsa just cannot be ignored. Won't be surprised if I'm wrong on that matchup, of course. That one is a lot more 50-50 than the likes of Colombia, Panama, or Argentina, Ecuador. But yeah, don't forget to let me know your thoughts as always in the comments below. Thank you all for making it to the end. And yeah, please like this video if you want to continue to see Copa America content, as I'm sorry I took a pause, but yeah, hope you all understand. Anyways, I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care. La con noche.